Whoa, kind of a dark, didn't it? Anyways, welcome to the Micronational Geographic reboot. This is episode 2 of the first season focused on the Bayou sector. Episode 2, the Empire of Ela'r'oech. The Empire started back in 2018, but we'll first get really going in September, when the first Elarian War would break out. This would involve troops from the micronation Ela'r'oech taking over one of the buildings from our micronation, which we would later take one of their troops, keep them until an eventual ceasefire was declared by Anthony Ramirez, who was at the time the dictator of Ela'r'oech. Ela'r'oech, however, would later engage in foreign relations with micronations such as Runnymede and Bagan. Because of this, this would make the nation more active, but it became known as a reactive micronation, which is a term that I use for micronations which don't really do their own thing. They rather react to the actions of other micronations. Eventually, after a second Elarian War, which would involve the new help of a micronation known as Ploris, there were prime minister elections held in Ela'r'oech where Christophe Belung would win after accusations of voter fraud and general distrust with the election. However, he would serve as a great prime minister for the nation and a huge icon in politics in Ela'r'oech. Later on, we would also engage in foreign relations with Pontunia, the subject of last episode. There I would meet and become friends with Andrew, and it would be nice. Everyone was generally happy with the state of the nation. However, towards the end of October, on the 27th, Christina was declared queen, apologies, because Anthony, the king, had decided that he would trust Bryce Smith, at the time the prime minister, and this would lead to the first monarchy dispute of Ela'r'oech. So in this dispute, it would be a civil dispute between the parliamentarians, which would be the at the time Prime Minister Bryce and at the time the Queen Christina, with Carolisians, Carolus being me, and Carolisians are my supporters. Power dispute would begin on the same day that Christina was queen. There was protests proclaiming that the current government, which was not a parliament, it was a cabinet that Bryce had put in, they were appointed, they were not elected. People were mad that they weren't elected, as these were people who had never been in Ela'r'oech. There were people from Sycoldia, Saramwin, and other micronations that weren't even in the Bayou sector. So Elarians were very mad at that. This would lead to arguments where the Elarian National Party, which would later become known as the main political party in Ela'r'oech, it was conservative, and it would be led by Christophe Belung and Andrew Perdomo. They would actually start negotiating to resolve the dispute. Protests in Ela'r'oech, as well as the dispute in general, was heavily discussed in Elarian media, specifically by Ela'r'oech news source, which was owned by Anthony Ramirez. Eventually, this would lead to a court case, which the parliamentarians would win. However, on the 5th of November, the Ela'r'oech MicroWiki page got locked. That way no one could edit it, make it biased. This was to prevent an edit war. However, on the 16th of November, the dispute came to an end when there was a one-state solution with Christina as queen and myself as king. However, Christina would later step down on Christmas 2021, my bad. So, there would be the founding of multiple constituencies in Ela'r'oech. The kingdom would start to grow, becoming more imperialistic over time. On the 13th of November, we got some good stuff. There was a football league founded, still running to this day as of filming. And eventually, Ela'r'oech started getting bigger and bigger, and then the bubble burst as I left the nation for a while to just reflect upon my micronational career. Then when I came back on 21st February 2022, that might not have been the exact date, but it was around that time. It was in February 2022 when eventually I came back and I said that I had some plans for Ela'r'oech. Eventually, we would get realms in the form of Zaprana, Elaria, and Nagrad. Zaprana had its realmship taken, but it was then later regiven. Eventually, with all these realms, I decided to make the kingdom a empire. However, in the very short day that it became an empire, another monarchy dispute boiled out. So the second monarchy dispute would break out. Basically, it was because we wanted Pontunia, our longtime ally and the subject of last episode, to become a realm. However, when we were an empire, we decided, hey, y'all be you, we'll be us. But that wasn't believed by the parliamentarians, which was yet again ruled by Christina, or Maximilian von Meister, who named Christina, did not name Christina queen, however, would name another part of her family queen, with Andrew, the king of Pontunia, being emperor of the Bayou sector, at least self-proclaimed. However, pretty much what happened was they set up an illegal breakaway state, which would fall apart 6 days later. Didn't last a week, but it was still very impactful on the nation. However, because of that, the armed forces would grow immensely, and so would the nation, of course. In the coming days, the armed forces grew, and because of that, so did the nation itself, as I started to advertise at my school, hey, you can join the armed forces, and people started getting interested in it. There's 4 branches in Ela'r'oech's armed forces, including the Royal Army, the Royal Defense Corps, the Royal Search and Seizure Command, and the Archete. Each branch consists of separate roles, with the Royal Army serving the Empire militarily, following through with declarations of war from the Empire, and protecting the mainlands of the Empire, with the Defense Corps just protecting the Empire and serving in the Army following declarations of war. So all members of the Defense Corps become part of the Army if war is declared, with the Search and Seizure Command being to search any suspected terrorists, felons, and criminals, seize any homes of terrorists, felons, or criminals, and seize any device or objects which were involved or suspected to be involved in criminal activities. Then there's the Archete, which is pretty much a separate beast in and of itself. It is essentially a paramilitary group somewhat, even though it is in the armed forces. They follow my direct orders, are extremely loyal to me, and are to protect me and my family, of course. So this is more of a personal bodyguard type deal with the Archete. However, it is suspected that the armed forces is only going to grow with the nation in the coming days. So thank you all for watching the second episode of Micronational Geographic, and we'll see you all next time.